Welcome back to the Archive Network. Aurelius here with Malik, curators of the Exploration Archive. We left Vasco da Gama last time, and as the season shifted and monsoon currents began to change, captains faced difficult choices about timing and allocation of the fleet. Today, we pick up where we left off. In late spring of 1498, da Gama's fleet reached the southwestern edge of the great Indian Ocean. The coastline promised a wealth of trade. On May 20th, they arrived at a harbor alive with spices. Here, black pepper lined the stalls, and merchants negotiated in many tongues. It was a sensory rush after weeks at sea.
But it wasn't just a rush of spices, Aurelius. For these sailors, it was a confrontation with a world that didn't need them. They had spent countless hours watching an endless horizon. The first sight of land brought not just relief, but also a tidal wave of uncertainty. They were outsiders in a well-established trade network.
True, they were strangers. But we must remember, empires always seek to extend their reach into the unknown. The Portuguese set sail with the belief that their goods would attract eager buyers in distant lands. Instead, they were met with a market that regarded them as curious oddities. It was an eye-opening experience for da Gama and his men, highlighting the stark realities of cultural exchange. They had much to learn about the world they were venturing into.
But that expectation set them up for failure. The indigenous merchants had spent years building relationships with Muslim traders. They had reputations, credit, and rights that newcomers just couldn't buy. The Portuguese didn't grasp the local customs, which made their approach seem naive at best and downright arrogant at worst. It wasn't just a business miscalculation. It affected real people. Families depended on those trades, and when the Portuguese barged in, they disrupted lives that had been carefully woven together over generations.
Negotiations were complicated, much more so than the Europeans had bargained for. They unfolded in unexpected ways. Local rulers leaned heavily on ritual and influence, not just cold, hard currency. The Portuguese, thinking that displays of force would bend the terms in their favor, quickly realized their mistake. They discovered that value wasn't measured the same way here in this bustling port. The lessons learned were harsh, reminding us that understanding local customs is crucial in any engagement.
Aurelius, you keep framing this as a learning experience for the Portuguese. But let's be clear, it was also a clash of cultures. The tension was palpable. Men who were used to shipboard discipline suddenly found themselves navigating crowded alleys filled with sights and sounds they didn't understand. They faced not just bustling markets, but a complex social fabric they couldn't grasp, where every interaction felt like a challenge. It was disorienting, and for many, quite frightening.
You raise a valid point. The heat and humidity certainly added to their struggles. When they finally stepped onto land, we might think it would be a relief, but it quickly became clear that new challenges awaited them. The air was oppressive, almost like a wet blanket smothering them. It tested not just their endurance but also their ability to adapt to an environment that was anything but welcoming. They had to learn quickly, or risk being overwhelmed.
Yes, and sleep was elusive. New insects buzzed around us, and strange noises filled the night. Contrast with the cold of our ship was stark, almost jarring. Many men were already weakened by scurvy and dysentery, barely able to stand. Now, here we were, facing the added threat of unknown infections. Every cough sent a chill down our spines, making us all too aware of how fragile our lives had become in this unfamiliar land.
The toll of the voyage was heavy, as we all know too well. Supplies were stretched thin, even amid what appeared to be abundance. Exhaustion was visible in feverish eyes and listless hands. Yet, some captains emerged with tangible successes. They managed to acquire spices that amazed even the most seasoned sailors, brightening their spirits momentarily. It was a significant victory, a small triumph that reminded us all of the rewards that lie on the horizon, waiting to be claimed.
But those successes came at a cost. The presence of armed ships turned the harbor into a tense stage for uneasy posturing. The the Portuguese quickly learned it couldn't simply dominate this world. The political landscape was incredibly intricate. Misreading local customs could easily provoke deep insult, leading to swift retaliation. It wasn't just about power. It was about understanding the people and their ways. Every misstep could have serious consequences, affecting lives and relationships in ways they often overlooked.
They faced a delicate balance, and it wasn't easy. As the monsoon currents approached, captains found themselves at a crossroads. They had to make tough decisions about timing and allocation. Some ships loaded what they could, knowing they might not return. Others, however, pushed for longer stays. They were hoping to secure more cargo and shelter before the storm unleashed its fury. In times like these, every choice could tip the scales, shaping the fortunes of their voyages and the empires they served.
These decisions were shaped by experience and instinct, often made in the heat of the moment. The ocean demanded respect, and forecasts were little more than educated guesses. Their journey was about so much more than just spices. It was a true test of survival and adaptability. Each captain returned with not just new knowledge but stories of hardship and resilience, paving the way for future voyages and igniting a spirit of exploration that would carry on for generations.
What left port that spring was more than just a cargo of spices. It was the outline of a new route, a different global economy emerging. Those ships, with their precious cargo and the knowledge of distant lands, carried the seeds of change. As they sailed, we witnessed not just trade but the reshaping of power dynamics. The journey back to Lisbon would be another trial, a true test of their resolve and determination, reminding us how intertwined fate and fortune can be.
That's where we leave it this time. Vasco da Gama, continuous. The story isn't finished yet. Find the full series on the Exploration Archive, part of the Archive Network. We'll be back with the next chapter.